Welcome back to our online test conf day 1 session. Let me count 5 of today with someone who I can gladly and sincerely call my friend Eran Kinsbruner from, I would say Boston, but I think that no, it's actually a little bit outside of Boston. And for those of you who have been living under a rock, Eran is both an author and I think that a pretty cool and interesting testing knowledge center all along. I really appreciate most of the stuff that he does around automation, around mobile environment, and everything that he's doing right now at Perforce. His official title is Chief Evangelist, which always sounds interesting to say the least. And one of the things that I need to say is maybe, well, he has written 3 books, but the most interesting fact is that his 2 songs are actually black belt karate experts. And, you know, man, it's about time you have someone to protect you.
Yes, so many fans.
Wait, is it me or we're not listening to you? For someone who does this so often, even though it might.
Can you hear me?
Go again?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I could hear you, at least for a second. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
So you will be talking about how to accelerate cross-browser testing using both Cypress and Selenium. And, you know, you can start sharing your screen and the session is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to take the screen from you.
That would be great.
Can you see the slide? The welcoming slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
we can see the Perfecto slide.
That means that I can start talking. So Joel and the entire online test conf, thanks for having me again in this awesome event. I love talking in this, specifically in this event. I'm also wearing your t-shirt. Love it as well. Thank you. You know, what I'm going to cover in this session, I'm going to be very different than the other colleagues of mine that usually talks about Selenium and Cypress. You would probably see a lot of Selenium versus Cypress, and you see some violence and, you know, one versus the other. I hate fighting, even though my sons just got the black belt. It's just for protection. And I am coming with peace, okay? I'm using Cypress and Selenium, so we can compare these 2 technologies, but I will try to convince you that you don't really need to choose one over the other. You can actually benefit in different areas from using both. I won't say too much about myself because it will actually disappoint you. I think that Joel did a great job presenting me. The only thing that I would say, if you do want to continue speaking with me, chatting with me, and if you like this session and you are not following me already, feel free to follow me and chat with me also offline as well. So I'm going to start because when you're talking about Selenium and Cypress, you're not talking about 2 frameworks that live in their own silo. You're talking about cross-browser testing for both developers and SDETs. So I'm going to give you a very brief overview of where we are on the landscape today, some considerations, and then I'm just going to dive deep into the Cypress and Selenium. I fell into my own trap. I'm going to use the Cypress and Selenium. And I hope that time permits, I will try to give you a nice short demo of running Cypress in parallel, in the cloud, or also locally. So when we talk about the market or the landscape, you need to understand also who is using what and why. So obviously the market is divided into these 3 famous personas of developers, SDETs, and business testers, but they use technology to accomplish a specific given task. Developers care about fast feedback, acceleration of their, you know, code changes, and they can do it by using either fast frameworks. On the mobile front, you look at Espresso or XCY test. On web, you're looking at Cypress. This is a very fast framework, and I will explain soon why it's so fast. But it's not just the framework, it's also when you take the framework and put it on steroids with parallel testing, obviously you are accelerating feedback, and that's the sweet spot of developers doing testing. On the SDETs front, these guys do more robust testing, end-to-end testing, regression, functional, non-functional, and this is why they are mostly using Selenium and, on the mobile front, Appium or WebDriver IO for web. I'm not saying that SDETs are not using Cypress. I'm not saying it at all, but obviously they have more reason, if you like, to use Selenium, and I will explain also why. Business testers usually use lower code technologies because they are very good at knowledge and very knowledgeable of the system under test, but they are not writing code in dev languages. Hence, they would use Cucumber, BDD, and other scriptless solution. But when you combine all of these three agendas and technologies, this just proves that you really need this combination of different technologies to really mature your velocity and continuous testing, but also expand your test automation coverage. If looking at the top 10 frameworks that we are seeing over the past few 6 to 8 months, this is where the market stands on, and I picked the most advanced frameworks that are typically being downloaded the most. You think about Selenium, Puppeteer, and surprisingly Cypress.io. And by the way, Cypress.io is a bit higher than Selenium on the number of downloads. It doesn't mean everything, but it's an interesting fact already. And what's missing on this slide, and I will touch on that very soon, is the headless browsers from Microsoft, which is Playwright. We do see Puppeteer, which is very advanced, coming from Google and gaining a huge market share and a lot of downloads. Playwright, which was built by the founders of Puppeteer, are still ramping it up. It goes well for them, but they are not in my mind in the top 10 yet. They might reach that point pretty soon. And let's not forget the supporting frameworks and libraries that are out there that really allows developers and SDETs to really complete the test automation coverage. And I can name just a few, Signon.js for mocking and spies, and Istanbul for test coverage. By the way, some of these frameworks are utilized by Cypress as well. I will explain soon what I mean by that. And what about headless browsers? And then we'll later on dive into the Selenium and Cypress specifically. So headless browser testing are being led today mostly by Puppeteer and Playwright, and they are serving many purposes. Most of them are dev-centric, but think about use cases such as gaining the HAR file, HTTP archive file for monitoring and security and performance inspections, stuff like that. Some other UI testing and kind of unit testing are very suitable for these two frameworks. The main differences, even though they were originated by the same team, the Puppeteer team that just moved to Playwright, owned by Microsoft, you see that the main difference between these two technologies, they are both JavaScript based on Mocha and Jest, but the Playwright framework supports multiple browsers, and this is a huge advantage that the guys from Puppeteer brought into Microsoft. Yeah. Okay, so I'll run fast just to again accommodate the time lost. So basically, the drive behind Cypress is attributed to few things that developers are caring mostly about. Is the scalability and the fast feedback, maintaining local browsers like a Selenium grid, if you like, so they can check and validate their changes, and obviously actionable feedback and debugging. And these are exactly the things that Cypress not just promises, but also provides. Things such as time travel, debugging, network control, and many more are among the features that, in my mind, shine on top of Selenium and provided by Cypress. You can see in this slide, this is taken from one of the recent articles that I wrote with Gleb. Gleb is one of the most technical guys from the Cypress community working at Cypress. And the network control via Cypress Intercept and Cypress Clock are key features that you can use as developers or even as that to really control the network traffic, put timeouts, like this code sample that you see here. You can put a 30-second timeout and do a refresh or fetch of data from the website. And this is a very cool feature that you can control the network with, given by Cypress. Another feature that is probably going to come in Selenium 4 under the integration with CDP, the Chrome development tool, is already part of Cypress. Cypress is fully integrated with debugging abilities into the browser dev tools, and this allows you to not just expand your testing, but also get more analysis and logs to the console of Cypress. I mentioned earlier, I hope you didn't, I wasn't cut, the sign-on.js. This is a library for mocking and spying, but I also mentioned Istanbul for code coverage. But you can see here that Cypress as a community is growing with the number of plugins that are available in the market, developed by the community or just plugged into Cypress through APIs. And you can see code coverage as another capability that works with Cypress, which expands the capabilities. Cypress can be consumed in 3 different ways, either from the GUI runner that comes with Cypress or running it on the cloud. Perfecto is one of the cloud vendors that support Cypress. There are other vendors, of course, that support Cypress as well, or you can run it from the CLI or from Jenkins from CI. Cypress also provides, the native Cypress provides a dashboard with parallel testing and flakiness reporting. This is a paid service, but it's also part of Cypress. When you take everything that I've just said and add the Perfecto for Cypress SDK, you get few benefits. First one is that you can actually pack and upload and run at scale the Cypress test cases, but also since Perfecto Cloud supports Selenium, WebDriver IO, and Appium and other frameworks, you can actually have a hub or a single solution for multiple test automation executions and frameworks. Also, you can obviously get the job done much faster when you're utilizing a cloud solution. Coverage is another thing. This is what one of my points earlier, with developers needing to keep up with different frameworks and browsers. So Chrome and Firefox are releasing a new version each month. When you're dealing with cloud solution and testing with Cypress, you actually are agnostic to all these changes or all the permutations that are being released to the market. Reporting is a different benefit of running Cypress at scale also in the cloud, and I will soon show you how it works. You basically install Cypress locally, you add the SDK, configure the different capabilities like you would do with Selenium, and run it at scale in the cloud. I will jump, I mentioned these benefits. So this is kind of an aggregation of everything that I've just said: the coverage, the integration, the compliance with Cypress, the ease of installation, reporting, and secure cloud execution. Moving to Selenium. Selenium is now approaching to the version 4 GA. It's in beta, and they don't just have a new look and a new logo, but also a Selenium.dev website URL. They also have nice features like the relative locators that are supported in Selenium 4. As I mentioned earlier, the integration to the debugging protocol, the Chrome CDP, and many other features like the W3C compliance. If you take everything that I've just said up until now, Cypress being a dev-friendly solution with advanced debugging and network capabilities, and Selenium being a more mature solution, and you try to just map these two great frameworks, one versus the other, or one alongside the other, you see that Cypress has caught up with most of the browsers, but it's still not supporting Safari. Cypress is only JavaScript, with Selenium having multiple language bindings. You have more test runners that are supported by Selenium, and also more extensions and capabilities of testing unit and performance testing that Selenium supports. Selenium also has, starting Selenium 4, a very cool IDE as an add-on to Firefox and Chrome browsers, the features that I just mentioned, and something which in my mind is a very key benefit of Selenium compared to Cypress, and that's the mobile support. Okay, think about today's reality, digital reality. Web is web, but it runs on mobile. And if you can only test on these different browsers on a desktop, and you cannot really get the experience on a mobile device from the browsers running on mobile, or even when you take Selenium and extract it with Appium for mobile native apps, you actually can use the same skill set to run on both web applications and mobile native applications and mobile web. So there are a lot of benefits and gaps between Selenium and Cypress. But what I mentioned earlier, Cypress does come with a very nice, cool features. And by the way, when you combine these two technologies together, you can really mature your test automation, coverage, and stability as well. So how to choose, how to pick between these two? I would say I have this very basic formula that I've created, talking with many customers of mine that are using both Selenium and Cypress. So when you see that you have too many flaky Selenium scripts, and if you have, let's say, 1,000 test cases on Selenium, and let's say 10% of them are flaky, this is an opportunity to maybe transition them. It will ease the maintenance as well. So write them from scratch on Cypress, see how they work. You don't need to throw everything that works for you in Selenium. On the other hand, if you're starting a new project, a new web project, new website, Cypress can be a nice opportunity to explore and see if it gets you to where you want to start, especially if you are a developer, but also mixing the personas. If you're targeted or challenged with complexity in setting up environments like Selenium Grid, and developers hate to deal with that, obviously Cypress runs on the browser itself, making it quite easy and fast. So this is another trigger to look into Cypress. The persona and the skill set are another consideration, because SDETs who are good in Python or Java or C# would definitely go with Selenium, because Cypress only works with JavaScript. Okay, so these are just few considerations. But at the end of the day, if you take a feature team or a set of testers, developers who are doing testing, SDETs and business testers, and you look at this very frightening table, this is a combination of everything that you want to accomplish in a single test suite, from both functional and non-functional API, unit testing, and others. And if you combine all these technologies into a single strategy, it's not one versus the other, it's one plus the other. You can really explode with the amount of testing that you can accomplish in a very short amount of time, rather than just sticking to a framework that sometimes locks you down. So this is I was running as fast as I can just to accommodate the time that we lost due to, or thanks to Verizon. I want to give you a taste on how Cypress looks like for those of you online who are not familiar with Cypress. Yoel, can you see my Visual Studio Code?
Yep, we can actually see it.
I'm thankful that you can actually still hear me. I'm the basics. So basically, when you look at Cypress, the native one, the native framework, and this is version, I think version 7.3.0. This is the latest version of Cypress. And this version takes every spec.js, every file I can show you here, that's the spec.js that we're going to run, okay? So Cypress, the GUI version of Cypress, takes everything that you have under your Cypress installation folder, usually under integrations examples, but you can put it wherever you want, and it's simply, assuming you installed all the dependencies, NPM files and everything, you can just click on this spec and run just this spec on the local browser. And you can see here that Cypress immediately acknowledges that I have 3 browsers. One of them is the built-in, the Electron 89, but I have Chrome 90 and Edge 90 installed on my machine. It identifies the browsers, and now it's going to run on the Chrome 90. And what you will see here, it's so fast, okay? It's not a very complicated test, but it's a test that has a lot of steps. And what you see and what I like about Cypress is the fact that you can see on the left hand the test step, on the right hand you see the execution, and you can do DOM snapshot and interact with the browser. You can actually put some breakpoints, debug, and if you're changing something live on the browser, it can actually, that's the time travel, you can actually debug it while you are running the test as well. So this is a very cool way of using the GUI runner, and I would use the GUI runner of Cypress when I'm developing, obviously, my scripts and working with the DOM tree as well. So this is a nice, very short demo of the GUI runner. You can connect it to the dashboard and view reports and do much more parallel testing, but that's again, that's a paid service, but from the open source thing, these are the test cases, and you can put screenshots, whatever you can think of. Cypress has a wide range of APIs that you can expand with. If you take Cypress, and I'm going to go one level up, and you install the Perfecto for Cypress, this is exactly what you're going to get, okay? It's too small. I'm going to expand it a bit. So Perfecto for Cypress gives you the ability to run and upload, actually first upload a zip file of every test that are available. And I will show you the config file. You can see here. It searches under the test directory. This is my test directory for any test that has the extension of spec.js. Here I have only 3 of these. And what I'm going to configure here, I'm going to give a name like Eran Cypress test. And I'm going to configure also the browsers on my cloud that I want to run these 3 test cases on. The only thing that I need to do right now is actually, let's see if I have it. I need to run the run command with a path to my config file. That's the Perfecto config. Notice that I didn't change any line of code on my scripts. In my scripts, I'm just configuring the coverage, the target platforms, okay, and specifying which test cases I want to run, and the SDK, which is available as a public repository on the npm.js, does everything for me. You get also the notification here on the console if something goes wrong. Let's say if you are connected via VPN or an HTTP proxy to a secure environment or something like that, or you are missing dependencies, this SDK does all the prep work for you while it's uploading the test to the cloud, so you can get an early alert if something goes wrong. But this is basically how things are going. And once you're going to see all the green check marks becoming green, obviously, all the check marks becoming green, this is when the execution actually starts on the cloud. In my case, I choose a Mac OS Sierra with Chrome 90, that's the latest Chrome, a Windows 10 with Firefox 85, and a Windows 10 with Chrome 88. Obviously, this is an impossibility as a developer to have all these 3 browsers on a single machine, because I'm running on a Windows machine, it's not a Mac OS, and working with virtual machines and stuff like that, it's quite complicated. So here I can specify, and I can actually specify even in parallel how many of these VMs I want. So if I have so many tests and knives that I want to parallelize, I add a number of VMs that I want to populate, allowing me to really expedite the execution speed. While this is running, I will try to go to my cloud, and you will soon see. I know that I'm going to be very hard on my hotspot right now, but I hope it will work, and I think it's working. I like it. So basically, what you're going to see right now, once the cloud loads, and it didn't load on the first time because of the networking, I hope that it will work now before the execution starts, and I think it does. Okay, so I'll go fast to my live stream. That shows me the Eran Cypress tests, okay? So basically, you can see that the tests are already uploaded to the cloud. You see here 3 virtual machines, 3 configurations that are being populated, and the execution will really start in a few seconds on this virtual machine. Everything on the cloud is being recorded, so all the scripts, all the executions are recorded with step-by-step monitoring. And if you want to compare it, or if you are running in the same time as Selenium scripts, it's all going to end up in the same cloud, in the same repository. So now I think we should see the execution starting. Yeah, everything is green. So I'm expecting, yeah, you see it now. You see that the execution is running. This is now the Firefox browser. You're going to see a live video feed from the cloud on this VM on which Cypress got installed fresh, and the test is now running. You see all the steps that you've seen locally are now running in the cloud, in parallel. You see it here, and everything is now being also reported back to my report library. So this is a nice way of dealing with Cypress at scale. So if you're to run
Eran, you might want to get back on that last 10, 15 seconds that you got a little bit cut.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I was saying that, by the way, the execution now ended, but if you, and I'm getting that my internet connection is unstable again. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, phew, lucky. Okay, so the execution just ended. I was executing in parallel across different devices, different browsers, sorry, and you local time, so the execution just happened. I want to filter the execution by a specific test case. I can actually filter here the execution or the test name from the filter area, and just see the report on Cypress in this view. And you can see it here with all my tags, Cypress and Cypress SDK demo. Okay, so what I've demonstrated up until now through an hotspot, this is new for me to do a webinar through an hotspot, but I've demonstrated to you a few things. I've demonstrated how you can take Cypress and run it locally with the same specs on a local browser. That's my Chrome 90 that I have on my machine. And then taking it to the next level and running it at scale on 3 different browsers in the cloud, getting all the different reports, with the video recording and all the steps. You see here, step by step, everything that was done on the Cypress front is being captured and reported here. And if I want to see the video recording, it's synchronized with the steps, and you can see the video of the steps being recorded and saved here. So you can download the video. If you want, you can report a defect in Jira directly from the report in the cloud. So you can actually do both. You can do local testing, you can expand it to the cloud, and this is what Cypress is good about. The only, if time was permitting, I would have run also a demo for you in Selenium just to explain the main benefit of running Selenium on both mobile and web. Because if you ask me, other than the languages and the maturity of Selenium, I think one of the biggest things that Selenium really has on Cypress, beyond the other features that I mentioned, is the web and mobile support. Because today everything is web and mobile focused, and Cypress is web focused. I think that Cypress are aware. I spoke with the Cypress founders a few weeks ago. They are looking to close the gaps on supporting Safari, and they're looking at mobile web and mobile device testing, mobile application testing as well, like Selenium is doing. But it's obviously going to take them a bit more time. They are smaller, the community is growing, but for now, there are clear differences between the frameworks. But this is why I think it's fundamental that we understand what are the key benefits of each of these technologies and really enjoy the benefits per each, because one can really complement, I truly believe in that, one can complement in a single team, whatever you want to do from a test automation coverage perspective. I can say, before we move to the questions, one thing that I have a local customer working with me in Perfecto that actually already uses Cypress with Cucumber, BDD. Cypress has a plugin for Cucumber, so you can actually write scenarios in Gherkin and steps in JavaScript. And actually is doing almost 40% of his test cases are written in Gherkin with Cypress, and the rest are pure Selenium written in Java. And they are enjoying this kind of differentiation between the two frameworks, and actually enjoying also a very good test automation coverage and stability. With that, I want to say again that I'm sorry for my network glitches. I cannot control that. It wasn't on my control. And I appreciate the fact that you are still, you believed in me and you remained throughout this session. And if you need, specific things recovered, if you need a slide deck, or if you need more on the demo side, I can obviously go back to you and complement what you missed. But for now, Yoel, if you have, or the team, if you have any questions on Cypress, on Selenium, on where it's heading, let's start the Q&A session.